may help explain why they are losing so many of these cases. Mr. Walter, Cher Edling has filed dozens of climate lawsuits. Are they being paid by the government entities they represent or by anonymous left-wing donor networks like the New Venture Fund?
I believe the vast majority of the funding comes from the outside funders, yes.
Isn't it also true that one of the biggest sources of funding for U.S.-based environmental litigation groups is Energy Foundation China, an organization run by a former senior Chinese Communist Party official who helped craft the CCP's 5-year energy plans?
Energy Foundation China channels tens of millions of dollars to numerous environmental groups, yes.
Now, Mr. Walter, my Democrat colleagues have said that's a crazy conspiracy theory. What is the basis for saying that Energy Foundation China is funneling so many millions of dollars into these suits?
Patriots, grab your coffee, grip that Constitution, and buckle up, because today we're ripping the mask off the biggest legal scam that's threatening the very core of America's strength, our energy independence. This isn't about climate change. This isn't about science. And this sure as hell isn't about the environment. No, what we are watching is an all-out legal assault, Lawfare, by radical environmental extremists, backed by shadowy left-wing billionaires and foreign interests, to destroy the American energy industry. And they're doing it with 1,000 tiny lawsuits, bleeding the lifeblood out of hard-working American companies. Let me say it loud and clear. This is not the rule of law. This is lawfare. This is sabotage. You see, the goal here isn't justice, it's exhaustion. These lawsuits are not meant to win on the merits. They are designed to drain, intimidate, and ultimately cripple our energy sector. They want to take down Exxon, Chevron, Shell, you name it. Not because they broke the law, but because they produce oil and gas, the very fuel that built this country and keeps it running. One of the most outrageous cases? A bunch of activists, 21 of them, actually tried to sue the entire United States government, claiming that climate change violates their due process rights. I'm not kidding. A federal judge even compared the so-called right to a stable climate to the right to same-sex marriage.
Ruth, thank you.
Thank you. What we're seeing is not the rule of law. It's lawfare. These lawsuits aren't meant to succeed on the merits. They're designed to exhaust, to intimidate, and to destroy America's energy sector. Death by 1,000 cuts. We've even seen private parties get in on the act. One of the most infamous examples was Juliana versus United States, where 21 people sued the federal government claiming that allowing climate change to persist violated their due process rights. A federal district judge in Oregon actually agreed, comparing the right to a stable climate to the right to same-sex marriage. She was prepared to enjoin the entire federal government, effectively putting the energy industry into judicial receivership at the behest of, quote, children. Fortunately, the Ninth Circuit, by far the most liberal court of appeals in the country, shut it down, and eventually a unanimous Supreme Court did as well. Funded by deep-pocketed climate activists and left-wing dark money, the anti-American energy lobby and its allies in the plaintiffs' bar have initiated dozens of civil lawsuits against American energy producers. These suits, which assert state law claims under dubious nuisance, tort, or consumer protection theories, are properly preempted by federal law. Nevertheless, they have proliferated across the country, and they are exposing energy producers to potentially trillions of dollars in damages. There are now more than 30 active lawsuits across the country accusing energy producers of misleading the public about carbon emissions and climate change. If successful, these suits could destroy millions of jobs and raise the energy cost of every consumer in America. Let me start with the legal foundations. General Kobach, have any of these climate lawsuits, brought under public nuisance or similar theories, been upheld on the merits by a federal appellate court?
No, Senator, and none of them have been upheld on the merits by a state appellate court either. The case that is closest to a higher level decision right now is the Baltimore case, Baltimore versus BP. It's several consolidated cases. That's basically a case where Baltimore is suing the fossil fuel industry defendants for climate change generally. A lot of these others are more specific, like shale oil production or plastics, but they're just global warming. And the district court in Baltimore ruled against the plaintiffs on all 8 grounds. That's a pretty big deal. And they now are appealing to the state Supreme Court. That one will probably be decided later this year, early next year, but that's the biggest or nearest chance the plaintiffs have to achieving a victory, but they have got no victories so far.
And isn't it true that many of these suits are brought by cities and counties that lack the legal standing to assert injuries on behalf of the entire public?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and that's what I was alluding to when I mentioned parens patriae. That's the state has the responsibility. Parens patriae is Latin, of course, for parent or father of the country, and the state attorney general, which represents the state at large, has that sovereignty. Our Constitution contemplates that states have sovereignty, and they conceded some of that sovereignty to the federal government. But localities are creations of state government. Localities do not possess the sovereignty that a state does. And so while some people may be upset that we have 50 states and the states take different positions in some of these legal cases, the states have at least the right to represent their residents. Cities do not, counties do not. And so it massively multiplies the potential plaintiffs out there, and it becomes nonsensical in a legal sense for a city in one end of a state and a city on the opposite end of the state to both purport to represent the residents of the same state. And in the cases I mentioned, they're purporting to, in a class action format, represent all representatives, represent all citizens and residents of every county in America. So they've taken public nuisance theory to a bizarre extreme, and they've also usurped the authority of state attorneys general.
Well, that may help explain why they are losing so many of these cases. Mr. Walter, Cher Edling has filed dozens of climate lawsuits. Are they being paid by the government entities they represent or by anonymous left-wing donor networks like the New Venture Fund?
I believe the vast majority of the funding comes from the outside funders, yes.
Isn't it also true that one of the biggest sources of funding for U.S.-based environmental litigation groups is Energy Foundation China, an organization run by a former senior Chinese Communist Party official who helped craft the CCP's 5-year energy plans?
Energy Foundation China channels tens of millions of dollars to numerous environmental groups, yes.
Now, Mr. Walter, my Democrat colleagues have said that's a crazy conspiracy theory. What is the basis for saying that Energy Foundation China is funneling so many millions of dollars into these suits?
Well, their own IRS filings, because they're a 501c3 registered in San Francisco.
If this were really about reducing emissions, wouldn't we expect Energy Foundation China to give a damn about the worst polluter on the face of the planet, that being Communist China?
That would be logical, yes, Senator.
And yet, their lawsuits are designed to destroy the American energy industry, which happens to perfectly coincide with the political objective of Senate Democrats to destroy the American energy industry. Would the result of that help or hurt America, and would it help or hurt China?
Well, obviously, it would help China vis-a-vis the United States, and it would certainly be highly problematic for everyone in the United States.
Thank you. Senator Whitehouse.
That's how far gone the courts are in some corners. But thank God, even the liberal Ninth Circuit shut it down. And when the Supreme Court got its hands on it, unanimous rejection. Because deep down, even the robed elite can see through the absurdity. Right now, as we speak, there are over 30 active lawsuits across America accusing energy producers of misleading the public about carbon emissions. They're filing these under things like nuisance laws and consumer protection, claims so flimsy they wouldn't survive a civics class, let alone a serious court. But they're doing it anyway. Why? Because the process is the punishment. These lawsuits are being bankrolled by left-wing dark money, groups like the New Venture Fund and the Energy Foundation China. That's right, China, the Communist Party's best friend, funneling tens of millions into environmental groups right here in the USA to destroy our energy producers from within. Patriots, you don't need a tinfoil hat to see the truth. While we're shutting down our pipelines, China's firing up more coal plants. While they're buying up African lithium and locking down energy deals, we're tied up in courtrooms over made-up climate grievances. Who benefits from all this? It sure ain't the American worker. And here's the kicker. Most of these lawsuits are being filed by cities and counties, not even the states themselves. They don't have standing. They don't represent the people. They are legal fictions pretending to speak for entire populations. That's not just sloppy, it's unconstitutional. The Constitution says states have sovereignty. Cities and counties are creations of the state. They don't have the authority to sue on behalf of the whole country. And yet they're acting like they do, with help from the plaintiff bar, which is getting rich off this nonsense. This is a hijacking of our justice system, weaponized by radical green ideologues who hate fossil fuels, hate American prosperity, and hate everything we stand for. They want to transform America into some climate-obsessed utopia. But let me tell you what that utopia looks like: rolling blackouts, unaffordable gas, lost jobs, and an economy chained to Beijing. Here on Right View Nation, we stand for truth, freedom, and energy independence. We don't bow to climate hysteria. We don't take orders from George Soros-backed NGOs. And we sure as hell won't let communist China fund a legal war against the red-blooded Americans who built this nation with their bare hands and diesel engines. So to every energy worker, every farmer, every trucker, and every patriot, this is your fight too. Because if they take out our energy sector, they take out America itself. Stay loud, stay proud, and never apologize for loving your country. Like, share, and subscribe to Right View Nation. We're not going anywhere. We're just getting started.